Welcome back to Chirping with the Chicks, everybody. I'm Bethany Sheehan,
I'm Savannah Gaida.
and we have some excellent news for you guys. We have decided, and are now going to be posting on Thursday evenings, 8 p.m. Eastern. So set those alarms, put it in your calendars, tune into YouTube, on Thursdays to see our latest episodes. Woo!
Absolutely. Cancel all plans. You're tuning in to Chirpin' with the Chicks, 8 p.m. Eastern on Thursdays.
Big time. And with that being said, we will jump straight into NHL updates and big news coming out of the league this week, starting with the Edmonton Oilers. Savannah, take it away.
Absolutely. I'd be more than happy to. Connor McDavid, the heart and soul of this Edmonton team, was injured in last Monday night's game in their 6-1 loss to the Blue Jackets. He suffered a lower body injury, which at first people thought was his leg, but ended up being his ankle. He tripped up on Zach Verevsky and his leg awkwardly collided with the board. And that was just after 37 seconds on the ice. So, really unfortunate to see your captain go out that way. And, everybody else now has to step up without Connor McDavid on the ice.
Yeah, it looks like he'll be out a couple weeks with that ankle. I think he just took a bad fall on that trip. I don't know. Like it didn't I rewatched the video a bunch of times. It didn't look like, Zach Werenski really like pushed him that hard with the trip. It looked like he just like kind of was poking at the puck and he just fell over the stick a little bit. But yeah, I think luckily they have so many other powerhouses on that team. I mean, they did well enough with Connor McDavid injured last season. I think they maybe it was kind of a tough start, but again, he's their biggest offensive player, but their defense is what really needs to like be worked on for them to get some more wins. Obviously, this season they haven't started the way we wanted them to, but I think they have enough going on without Connor McDavid.
Yeah, and people were really worried about how they would perform without him, but they've been doing quite well. I think a lot of the players finally stepped up and they know that this is their chance to prove themselves. Last week we were talking about where is Zach Hyman? Well, Zach Hyman's back. Looks like he was hiding up until Halloween. He came back and had one goal against the Predators, and Leon Draisaitl had a massive game against the Predators. It was a spooky show in Nashville. He had two goals and he won a lot of puck races because he came ready to play. He knew that with McDavid out, he could really take this opportunity to shine on the ice, which is exactly what he did. So I think the Oilers are going to be just fine without McDavid. Obviously, they're not at their strongest right now, but I think that they're going to fare just fine without him for the time being.
Yeah, and I definitely think that I wouldn't put it on him entirely their start to the season, 5-5. I mean, they started off the season kind of slow last year and he did get injured and I'm sure that didn't help, but I think the goaltending and the defense is always the question with this team. But moving on, talking about defense, the Red Wings and Utah trade.
Yeah, we love seeing trades so early on in the season. And it's so exciting because this Utah team, it's their first franchise season. And you can tell that they're working really hard around the clock to make something out of this team. And so, they're not obviously the best in the league just yet, but they needed a defenseman. So the Red Wings traded defenseman Ali Mata to Utah for a third round pick. And obviously, Utah's been low on defensemen recently, so hopefully Mata can go in and help them out.
Yeah, I mean, with Marino, the trade they picked up from the Devils in the offseason, he's been out and he had lower back surgery, which I never saw coming. So that's kind of interesting. Who knows when he'll be back? And then Jersey also had shoulder surgery. So, and those two guys, like those were expected to be major defensive pieces for them this season. And obviously both of them are out now, so they needed a pickup to really keep moving with the defense for Utah.
Could this be the start of a franchise curse? Injured defense.
I was wondering the same thing. I mean, there's so many franchises with this like injury curse, and I could talk forever about the Blue Jackets and their injury curse, but this is insane. And Marino was like, I don't think he was injured at all last season for the
No,
Devils.
not that I
So I Right? So I don't know how like if this was an off-season injury or if him and Luke Hughes just both got injured because they didn't have each other, but the besties. But yeah, I don't know. So it's very interesting. Moving on to a positive note, I guess. Not really, but kind of. The Rangers are 7-2.
Yeah, I'm not so happy with the Rangers right now. It's a great record, but I don't like what Laviolette is doing with this roster, specifically with Matt Rempe. Matt Rempe is a young player, and I think he's got a lot of potential. He's not the most skilled hockey player. He's more of an entertainer than anything else. However, I think that if you sent him to the according development program, which would be Hartford, you can really develop a solid defenseman out of him. And right now, they're just like, I don't like what they're doing with him. It's honestly clownery. It's unfair to Matt Rempe to be sent back and forth between the Rangers and the Wolfpack pretty much every week. He's going back and forth. It's unfair to him. It's giving him false hope. Maybe he knows that they're kind of just using him as an enforcer and he's there to entertain. But I really think that if you care about this player's well being in the NHL, you're going to develop him. You're going to keep him in the AHL for at least this season, maybe next season too, but at least this season, and let him develop. Don't just recall him and then send him back down whenever you feel like it because you want to fight on the ice. That's not fair to him.
No, and I think during the off season it's interesting because he did do fight training, so I think in some ways maybe he was expecting this. But like you said, like he's not even I don't even think he's AHL ready. Like if you've seen the way he plays in AHL games, he doesn't even look like he belongs there.
I see that clip of him just straight on skating and
Into the boards. I mean that was yeah, that was a crazy, ridiculous whatever. But he's not a great skater. Obviously, we thought that because he was training with some, higher skilled skaters and players in the off season that maybe that would help with his development, but it ends up being that he doesn't look ready. Um and I know he's a fan favorite because of his, likelihood of fighting, and people love to see that in the NHL. And I'm sure that's probably what's going on here is that the fans want to fight. The, management sees that the fans want to fight, and so they bring him up. But again, it's not fair to his development, and it's dangerous. If he's only fighting every single game, and that's the only reason he's coming down to play, that increases the likelihood for concussions and for serious fractures in his face. It's like, let's think about this kid's health. Like he's still a young guy in the NHL playing, with these huge big guys who have like, years more experience than he does, fighting these bigger guys who could, knock him down with probably one punch, some of them. So it's like you think about it this way, it's like, let's think about the kid's health. Like, come on.
yeah. I mean, at this point, Rempe may want to consider a career change from the NHL to the UFC.
That's like if you're gonna want to fight, like just think about that. MMA or something. Like,
Yeah.
come on.
And now, time for our favorite segment of the week, our pyramid reveal. We've got 6 teams ready for you. Who do we have in 6th place? The New Jersey Devils, led by the fearless Nico Hischier. So the Devils just played their Hughes Bowl, which you and I have been talking about for weeks, and it finally came. But a surprisingly underwhelming game. They shut out Vancouver 6-0. But I gotta say, I'm not a member of the Hughes family, so I'm indifferent to this. As somebody looking from the outside, Devils had a wonderful game. To have 6 goals and 6 different players scoring each goal, that scoring diversity is so important. They had Jack Hughes, Heischer, Pawat, Meyer, and Mercer all on the scoreboard. And unfortunately, Quinn Hughes and Luke Hughes could not get on the score sheet, but their brother Jack had a power play goal and an assist. So the Devils honestly just outplayed Vancouver.
Yeah, and it's so funny because they've had a couple of games where the Devils and the Canucks have played each other, but Quinn has yet to score in one of these Hughes Bowls. So it's hilarious because Jack's first NHL goal was against the Canucks, and then Luke scored in his first game against the Canucks. So it's kind of funny that Quinn has yet to get on that scoreboard against them.
This be
Um,
the Chelkers remnants of it.
I I don't think so. No, no. I think this is just I Quinn doesn't want to embarrass his brothers. He's very nice.
Humble.
Um he's a
He's just
yeah.
a
He's
humble
like, I'll score in the
captain.
next game. It's fine. But yeah, I think the fact that they shut out the Canucks is, very impressive. I'm happy that they were able to get a good game under their belt. I know they had some rough games in the last couple weeks, so at least this one they showed that they are still up there. So I think that's really great. And then obviously there was this Eric Howla, Connor Garland fight, which was so funny because Howla does not usually fight much. My king, Uncle Eric, photo of him last season here, looking at me from the ice. But he took Garland down. And then as he was going to the box and sitting in the box, the Canucks fans were booing him and he just blew a kiss to the crowd. And I was like, he's not like that man just got so sassy for like 30 seconds and it was
Such a diva
crazy.
move. I love it. Like,
It was so good. And I was like, you're really like testing the waters here. But it was funny because Garland obviously lost that fight. Big takedown by Howla there. Um
don't mess with
but
Uncle
yeah, it
Eric.
was don't mess with Uncle Eric. Have you never learned your lesson? But no, he's great. I'm glad that, he was able to get a good takedown there, especially against Connor Garland. So, um, I think that's really, really fun for the game. Seeing two guys who don't usually fight scrap it up on the ice. And then also the Devils scoring 6 goals 2 games in a row. They're really starting to produce heavy offense. And I will note that they finally split up the Meyer Hughes Brat line and now, unsurprisingly, look better. And what have I been saying for the past month? Split those three up, put
Yep.
two together and one on a different line. This Meyer, Heischer, Mercer has looked fantastic. I mean, it's just been really fun to watch that line. And then putting, Palat with Hughes and Bratt, Palat's a lot more of like a defense two-way forward, I would say, which Hughes and Bratt are definitely needing that. But people aren't really happy about that. They don't really want Palat on that line because he's not like maybe he's not a top 6 forward. I think he looks good there, and I think he's helping that line produce better. So that's just my opinion on that.
I think Keith should hire you as an assistant coach because you have been saying to split up that line for weeks.
For weeks. And I've continued to be like, the impact scorecard shows that this line's not doing what it should. Like, you put these three super heavy offense guys together, and then you're surprised when it doesn't work out. I'm like, I get that Keefe is used to having these offense heavy guys in Toronto, and they're all great together. But
Not in Toronto
unfortunately,
anymore.
they're not in Toronto anymore, and it's not going to work the same in every team you go to. So now we're trying different things out, and it's working out.
Yeah.
So I think that's been good.
Yeah. Keith was really disappointed after the Devils' performance against Calgary. And we watched that game. Remember, we were sending each other live updates. It was tied up until whatever dumpster fire occurred in the third period. I mean, that was just ridiculous to allow 3 goals in such a short amount of time. I really think that the Devils just folded. Like they just gave up.
Yeah. Well, this is very reminiscent to me of what the Bruins fans call the Ford Final Five curse.
Yep.
Because in that last 5 minutes, the Bruins would always let in a goal or two and then lose the game or go to overtime and lose. And it's very much like that because that happened, like those goals all happened within the last 5 minutes, I believe. So that's like, seriously? Like you couldn't like hold on to like at least the tie for the last couple minutes. So that's what it's giving to me.
And just a final Devils update, Curtis Lazar was ruled out indefinitely after his knee surgery. So we do wish him the best of luck in his recovery and hope to see him on the ice as soon as possible.
Lazar, we miss you.
We do.
We miss you, Curtis.
It's a good
I
thing he
love
wasn't
him.
against It's a good thing he wasn't playing against Calgary, that he didn't have that firsthand embarrassment. Secondhand.
No, I know. That's so bad. No, it would have been firsthand if he had been playing for sure. But no, he's great and he's such a fun personality for the team. So hopefully he'll be, out there on the bench or something supporting them during practice at least because he's just such a great guy. But moving on. Next place, the Tampa Bay Lightning. So they've had three straight wins, including actually not three straight anymore, but they did have three straight wins, including against the Predators, including their, former captain Steven Stamkos, and then they lost to the Wild last night, but that's not that surprising. The Wild obviously were at the top of our pyramid last week, so that's a good team, so I'm not that surprised.
Yeah. And it's interesting that they're facing the Jets today. And we had the Jets at the top of our pyramid last week. And with the Lightning coming off a loss and Jets coming out off of back-to-back wins, I think that the Lightning are unfortunately going to fall to the Jets today unless Vasilevsky does a better job in the net. And he's looking for his 300th NHL win, which would make him the fourth goalie still playing in the NHL to get 300 career wins. But his performance against the Wild was quite poor. He allowed 3 goals against Minnesota. And prior to that game, he had a good 3-game win streak going, and he only allowed 3 or fewer goals in the 5 games prior to facing Minnesota. So could have been an off day for him. But I see the Jets coming out with the win, even though I know Vasilevsky is going to bring his A game because he wants to get that 300th win in his career. I still think that the Jets are just going to be stronger on the ice.
Yeah, and the Jets have been playing really great hockey. Obviously they did one of their wins was against the Blue Jackets, so I take that with a grain of salt. But they still played really well, and their backup goalie was in net for that, and he made a lot of great stops there. But moving on to
The Caps.
Washington Capitals.
I love the Capitals right now. Like, who would have
It's so
thought?
fun to be in DC for this. It's
I'm
so fun.
jealous. I'm actually jealous. I was in DC all
Calm
the
down.
now they want to be good.
Yeah, right? What the heck?
So not fair. And especially beating the Rangers, which normally I wouldn't be too happy about, but that was my little alarm where I was like, you know what? What's going on in DC right now? They're
Are
really
they
relevant,
good?
right? Obviously, Alex Ovechkin in his 20th season, he scored his 858th career goal against the Canadiens the other night, which means he's 36 goals away from beating Wayne Gretzky's record of 894 career goals. He's bound to beat that record this season. Like, he's so on pace for it. Ovechkin is having an amazing season at a time when everyone thought he was falling off.
I know.
I think he's doing wonderful.
I think he actually scored a couple last night as well. So that just puts him a couple closer. So I think it was one or two, but I don't know if they took one away from him on the score sheet. But yeah, I mean, the Capitals have looked fantastic. Obviously, Ovi's he is slowing down. Like he is. There's like no question because you can see he just skates to the dot and he stands there and he waits for somebody to pass to him. But then when he shoots, he scores. So it's like it makes sense, but I would give him, this season he's going to break the record. Maybe they'll go to the championships. Maybe they'll, win another cup. That would be sick. But
Go
I
that
think
far.
I don't know.
I don't
They're on
know.
pace. Like they're looking really good right now. Obviously, they did drop one to the Lightning when they were away, but they otherwise have been winning very consistently. And then yesterday, they scored 5 in the first period against the Blue Jackets, which was absolutely devastating for me as a Blue Jackets fan, sitting amongst Caps fans and them all yelling in my face and bragging about the 5 goals, which to give some grace to the Blue Jackets, they did play less than 24 hours before that first period. So I will say
Cold.
that's something.
And they had to travel.
they had to travel. A travel day. Obviously, they literally played the Jets at 7 p.m. the night before, and then yesterday's game was at 5 p.m. Like that's not a 24-hour turnaround.
Yeah.
You're gonna have tired guys on the ice, and then you're playing your backup goalie, Tarasov, who I think has been, pretty excellent besides those 5 goals in the first period. But if you didn't count the first period, the game would have been tied. So, I mean, you look at that, it was brutal first period, but the rest of the game was really fun to watch.
Yeah. I'm excited for the Caps game later today.
Yes, yeah, versus the Hurricanes. So that should be a really fun one to watch.
In third place, we're going coast to coast. That's all I'll say. Viva Las Vegas!
Las Vegas. Yes.
Leading the Pacific Division right now. Vegas has been turning heads.
Yeah, I mean, Calgary fell off fast. I mean, they were, leading the division for a bit. Vegas shut out Calgary, so that's putting them up. And they've had some high scoring games against the Senators, the Kings, the Sharks, which is less impressive, but the Senators have been strong as well. So, that's a good win for them. And they also beat Utah in overtime. So I mean, they've been having some really excellent games.
And, to Utah's credit, they battled really hard in that overtime game against the second best team in the West. But unfortunately, Noah Hanfin hit a stride with Vegas. He had 2 goals and 1 assist. And I think that he really needed that. And he admitted, too, in the post-game interview that he needed to create more scoring chances for himself and for his team. And that is really what set the pace for his momentum. And I think moving forward, he gained a lot of confidence after that matchup against Utah.
Yeah, and I think, that's a big win for them. Obviously, they've dropped one to the Kings, but I think, besides that, they've been pretty strong. I didn't see them being like this good, but we'll see how the rest of the season turns out. Moving on to
Florida Panthers are reigning Stanley Cup champions.
Yeah, I mean, they've had some good wins against, the Isles and the Sabres, which are a little bit less impressive, but they did beat the Stars twice in the Global Series. So that's where I'm really I moved them up. Like I had them kind of lower on, and then they beat the Stars twice, and I was like, well, now I really have to bump them up a couple levels, put them in second place.
And I think a lot of these really good performances are thanks to Sam Reinhart. He's the second skater in the league to net 5 career goals outside of North America, matching Patrick Laine's record of also racking up 5 goals outside of North America. Laine had done this in 3 regular season games in Finland, and Reinhart is on a 4 game goal streak. So he's really coming in hot right now.
Yeah, and he's been really great. Obviously Laine is from Finland, so when he was playing those games, he was playing to his hometown crowd. So it's always fun to play for your hometown crowd, score a bunch of goals. A bunch of the Panthers are also from Finland and scored it in their hometown. That's always really fun. And then also, just of note, Sam Reinhart, Nico Hischier, and Cole Caulfield are the top 3 goal scorers, and they're all wearing number 13, which is just, I mean, Johnny Gaudreau, his spirit's all over that, I think.
It gives you goosebumps. It really does.
It's,
What
yeah,
are the odds? The 3 players wearing 13. It's pretty amazing.
yeah, and that's hopefully they'll continue that, trend, and they all look great right now. So that's been really fun to see
Yeah.
them really shine this season. But our number one, which you can probably see a little bit from
Got a
here,
storm coming. The
there's
Carolina
a storm
Hurricanes.
coming. You know what it is. You already know what it is. 5 straight wins, 8-2 against the Bruins, and other major wins against last year playoff teams. And they play the Capitals today, which is a huge, major game for the Metro Division. The Capitals are currently leading the division, but the Hurricanes are, they're on a grind. They're really looking excellent right now.
As we said earlier, we are so pumped for this matchup. The Caps won their last 3 games as an underdog in the Metropolitan Division. And the Hurricanes have really struggled on the puck line a bit. So even though they're at the top of our pyramid, they've had excellent performances. I do think that the Caps are going to beat the Hurricanes tonight. I honestly think they're going to have an advantage.
See, I disagree. Um, but that's only because the Caps played last night. They played a 5 p.m. game yesterday, and now they're traveling to Carolina. And they're playing away at Carolina. So 2 games. Again, it's always tough to play back-to-back games. That's the only reason I'm gonna say I'm favoring the Canes in this one.
It's very fair. Good logic there. I'll give you that. Just as long as the Caps don't end up like the Bruins in that Carolina catastrophe that we saw the other night. 3 goals in 52 seconds. That's the fastest 3 goals scored by a team this season. Carolina was a powerhouse that night against the Bruins. 7 power plays, 3 power play goals, all in just the first period. And I think ultimately what allowed them to be so strong and make the top of our pyramid was that they stopped taking penalties and they started scoring goals. They're on a 5 game win streak.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that Bruins game is unfortunately more reflective on the Bruins than Carolina, but I think
Yes.
that obviously they've been a powerhouse team. They have 5 straight wins. They've been at the top of the Metro for the past couple years. So I mean, they're really going after a cup. I feel like at this point, I mean, I had them favored to win the cup last year, but obviously that didn't happen. I think, they're an excellent team, and I think they might beat the Caps today, but I think it's going to be a fight tooth and nail for this one.
Yeah, some really exciting matchups this week. But that's all we have for episode 6. Thank you so much for tuning in.
So tune in on Thursdays on our YouTube and hopefully soon our Spotify to see our latest episodes. Chirps out.
Chirps out.